Hello and welcome to the Daily Brown Bag. Today we're talking about real-time marketing for small businesses. I'm Chad Hill and I'm joined by Adam Stetzer.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chad. Welcome to the Brown Bag. We've talked about newsjacking as part of a content marketing strategy for a long time. Today we're talking about this related concept, real-time marketing, and trying to get into this because there's a book that just came out, Chad, called Trendology, written by Chris Kerns, who is the lead analytics and research at a company called Spreadfast. And really interesting data here. I think it's right in line with our philosophy and what we talk to our SEO resellers about every single day, newsjacking, real-time marketing, whatever you want to call this. The kernel that's really interesting in this data is that Chris analyzed the Twitter activity of over 106 big brands, including MTV, Starbucks, Sony, IKEA, Disney, quite a few others, and really set on a mission to see if real-time marketing, this concept that he's talking about, really works, which, again, if you've been following us on newsjacking or have heard of this idea of real-time marketing, is the idea of really jumping on breaking news stories as well as moments in pop culture and trending hashtags and Twitter and trying to ride the wave of demand when the news is really hot and using that as part of your marketing platform, which he outlines again in this book, Trendology. And he does conclude that real-time marketing really does work and can be a real asset. The analysis is really interesting, Chad. It gets into a lot of very specific examples, some of which we'll remember from the last year or two. Using things at the Super Bowl, for example, if there's a blackout at the Super Bowl, or when someone trips walking up the stairs at the Oscars. He's got some data showing that retweets can soar by 1,000 or 1,200% if you jump in early on those hashtags. Political events are popular ones. Colorado's legalization of marijuana. Ben & Jerry's, for example, saw a 6,000% increase in the amount of retweets when they got involved in newsjacking or real-time marketing around that story. The birth of the royal baby, Prince William, that story, when that broke, certain brands jumped on that and saw a 12,000% increase in their retweets. So it really lays out very specific examples of how this can work and how this can be a benefit, at least for big brands. So I guess the question would be, how can you use this for small business?
Right. Well, it definitely works, but I think the other thing he does mention is that it's hard. It's not easy to do. You need quick thinkers. You need to designate resources and have a process, and you need to have someone monitoring, responding. Because if you're going to get involved in the thread, it's hard to just leave at 6 o'clock if you're an integral part of that conversation. And definitely, you've mentioned some of the successes, but there have been some pretty tremendous failures. Entenmann's actually went out and basically used a hashtag that they didn't really understand the context of it. They thought it was relevant to one thing, but it was actually meant something completely different. There was an incident with SpaghettiOs and their Pearl Harbor tweet. But as you said, there have also been a lot of successes, like the Oreos tweet from the Super Bowl. So for small business, I think when you're really simplifying it for a small business, really the big issue is just how much team and expertise does a small business really have. So I think what you have to do is set the expectations and try to figure out how to use trending social media topics to maybe inspire your content and get involved in, but maybe you're not leading it the same way that a bigger brand with more resources can. So joining the conversation is important, and also using that to extend other content you might be creating. The other thing, again, is that you probably aren't going to be available to monitor things 24/7, so you probably need to set your sights more on the things that are a bit more programmed out. So if there are big events like the Super Bowl happening, you can certainly work that into your promotional calendar. But being there for when the actual trip or wardrobe malfunction at halftime happens, that's going to be harder to do, again, as a smaller business. And I think the other thing is you don't really need a war room, like I'm mentioning here, to make it work for you. You do need a plan. You do need, again, a process, and you need the monitoring that we've already talked about. And I think the last final tip for us here today is just make sure you err on the side of caution, though, because there have been some fairly big explosions, if you will, of people who have gotten it wrong, again, with wrong hashtags, not knowing the context of hashtags, and then being respectful and realizing that, if you're going to join the conversation, you don't want to sell too hard. You have to make it, you have to position it in a way that actually adds to the conversation, not redirects it in your favor.
Yeah, we've certainly seen the parodies of using the hashtag inappropriately or at the wrong time or not with the appropriate sensitivity on the late night shows. So you do have to watch that. But this is a very interesting topic, and I'm sure one that will continue to evolve, Chad. And I know I'm interested to see how we could help supplement, the war room the small business can't afford through our reseller co-op. I'm sure there'll be fertile discussion on that. But that's our coverage of Trendology, the book today, and this very interesting concept of real-time marketing and newsjacking. We'd like to hear from you. Please drop us a comment, and we'd always ask that you subscribe to our video series.